The Atlanta Braves chop up the Cubs in 2 out of 3 games from the friendly confines, while the White Sox get screwed out of a technicality call to end the game against the Orioles. We'll discuss. The Dallas Mavericks upended the Minnesota Timberwolves in Game 1, while the Boston Celtics dominated the Indiana Pacers, taking a commanding 2 games to none series lead. We'll have New York Sports Talk with Brian Field from ABC 7 NYC and a whole lot more. It's the Friday edition of Second City Sports starts right now. Welcome to another fun-filled Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Mr. P. McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my community on the Twitter, X, and Kids Community on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support. As Lakina would say, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And we are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I give Lakina full powers to give you bums to be a beer boot. Lakina's muted, but she will always say toodles.
Oh, my bad. Didn't know I was muted. My bad.
Do it again.
Toodles.
All right. Now, before we begin, we must remind you can catch Sports Hall Chicago live in the 11 color, and especially right now on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on the sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you already have a Roku television, but you have a handheld, you do not have a Roku television, rather, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook, or your PC, or your Android, just head up to Google Play Store and download that Roku TV app and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
And we'll be providing you with some of the best here on Second City Sports. If you're already starting your Memorial Day weekend already, welcome. Tell your friends about us. You'll like, share, and subscribe. Of course, we're going to talk some, we're going to talk some playoffs as, the conference finals are in full swing in both the MLB and Stanley Cup. Also, some sports media news that's getting a little bit interesting. Also, we're going to have our buddy, ABC 7 New York's Ryan Field to join us to talk Rangers, Yankees, and Mets. And I know they have OTAs going on in a lot of parts of the NFL. But first, let's talk some Cubs. Cubs was a tough series against Atlanta at the friendly confines, and unfortunately, it's kind of like the same story that we're seeing all year. Lack of run support. The pitching was actually okay, and I guess the Cubs tried to throw Ronald Acuna Jr. to no avail, and it was just not a good week for the Cubs this week.
Well, the Cubs did get off to a good start on Tuesday, winning the first game of that series 4-3. Javier Assad actually pitched well for the Cubs, 4 2/3 innings with 4 strikeouts, but he did give up 5 walks. But their bullpen actually stepped up for Chicago with Mark Leiter Jr., Hayden Wisniewski, and of course, Mr. Little came down and shut down the fourth with the save for Chicago. But the next two games, Lakina, they were not good, especially this past Wednesday's game. Remember, Lakina, we talked about Atlanta on our last couple of shows. I said who had to step up in that starting rotation outside of Chris Sale. I said it was Max Free. He did that on Wednesday with a complete gamer, striking out 9 Cubs batters. He only gave up 2 hits, almost carried a no-hitter to the 5th inning before the Cubs really started to get going. But by then, it was too little too late. The Atlanta Braves offense stepped up. And, of course, yesterday's game, it was there for the taking, but the lack of offense for this Cubs team did not come through. And the pitching did all they could, including we saw the debut of Cal Hendricks out of the bullpen yesterday. I know it was sooner rather than that move was sooner rather than expected for many people, including yours truly. But I do not blame the Cubs pitching for yesterday's game. The lack of the offense, the lack thereof, did not come through. And now with this important series with St. Louis 3 on the road this weekend, the Cubs really got to get into gear.
Yeah, yeah. Just when you thought that maybe now the bullpen started to figure things out a little bit, but then now the hitting kind of takes a break. So Ian Happ broke that no hitter from Strider, and it's one of those things where you're just like, okay, can both sort of like be cohesive? Like, why can't like one be? It can't be like the pitching's been bad and like the hitting's been good and the hitting's been kind of kept in it. But unfortunately, well, this is what happens in a 162 game season. Sometimes everything ebbs and flows. You're gonna have struggles with hitting. The problem is that everyone's having their issues at the same time. So that's another problem there. Now Hendricks was actually pretty good in the bullpen. So that helps a little bit. So maybe he might find a new home. Who knows? Freed I should say. He almost had a no hitter. Of course, Ian Happ broke up that. So Freeze but definitely been stepping up in relief in kind of like as the ace right now. Of course, we're trying out for the rest of the year. So the Cubs are gonna be interesting because they got it, like you said, they got a big series coming up against the Cardinals. It's good. It's raining right now, coming up to rain right now, so they may delay that start of that game. But you wonder, like, of course, if you're the Cubs, you want to try to win 2 out of 3. That way, luckily for the Cubs, Milwaukee didn't have a good week themselves this week, so that actually will help them a little bit. So hopefully, they can get it going against the Cardinals team that's been kind of.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, the special Memorial Day weekend edition. Say Lakina, kicking off here with you, talking Chicago Cubs baseball. Lakina, sticking with that bullpen, we talk about Mark Leiter Jr. Who else has impressed you so far? Has it been Ben Brown? Has it been Hayden Wisniewski? I know Craig Counsell is starting to run out of options. As we said, someone's going to have to step up here. In the first 2 names that I mentioned, Wisniewski and Brown, they've really been impressive.
Brown was actually good the other day, so that you may have. Now the thing is that you got to wonder, like, you want to use him as a bullpen guy, you want to use him as a starter, so you kind of have to figure he's gonna have to figure things out there. Now Wisniewski, did have his struggles, but it looks like he's actually doing okay. So you got to feel pretty good for the Cubs. At least your bullpen is not as bad as it was. Azalea is going to be out for a little longer, so that's kind of an issue there. But the good news is that you may be starting to they are starting to kind of get out of that funk, so that should help them a little bit. But yeah, I mean, considering where they were, the first couple months of the season, they're actually doing pretty good. I don't want to say they're not lights out, obviously, but they're actually better than they were early in the season.
Yeah, and you hopefully they can keep it going until Jed Hoyer and Carter Hawkins make a move prior to the July 31st trade deadline. I know some people want them to make a move now, but as we said before, we're up on Memorial Day weekend, and this is the first quarter of the season. You kind of get a sense of where your team is. As we said before, it's a long season, but you kind of get an idea of where your team is performance-wise. And let's be real, the Cubs front office know the situation. They know what issues they need to address, but it just doesn't happen just like that. So I trust the Cubs management will do something between now and July 31st. And so they could go and compete for the NL Central Division title. I want to focus in on the offense. 6 runs in 3 games against the Atlanta Braves. I said this before, and I'll say it again. When healthy, the Cubs are a top 4 team in the National League in terms of offense, with the Philadelphia Phillies, with the Atlanta Braves, and with the Los Angeles Dodgers. But 6 runs in 3 games, and them being shut out for the fifth time this year. The three of those five shutout losses have come against the Atlanta Braves. That's a problem, and we all know come playoff time, you're going to get your team's the other team's top two starters. You got to have to manufacture runs, and yes, that's very sneakily the Cubs have a power hitting team, but you got to manufacture some runs here. And from what I saw this week in this series against the Braves, the Cubs were unable to do that.
Yeah, hopefully this is just one of those things where, like you said, to me, ebbs and flows. You don't have to worry about, guys kind of all getting cold at the exact same time. That's been a problem. But hopefully Nico Horner, he actually had a pretty good series, in that Brave series. Morel's been having, I know he's a little bit banged up. He's had his struggles. So I think
Mhm.
everyone kind of has to kind of like get together. Hopefully, like I said, the Cardinals, their pitch has been kind of lost, so maybe they can kind of break out of that funk against the Cardinals this weekend. So for me, I think, look, considering where they are right now, considering that with the problems they had in the bullpen, looks like they're starting to figure things out. Hopefully, the hitting, they can kind of figure things out as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Lakina, what are you looking forward to this weekend series in the series against the Cardinals? Because I'm looking for this offense to explode. I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to score 20 runs a game and go on a
Mhm.
tear. We've seen that happen before, but it's got to start out with the baby steps for this Cubs here. I'm looking for Dansby Swanson, who's just returned to the lineup to get it going again, not offensively, but with that glove as well. And Nico Horner has been very good at the top of the lineup as well. But these guys like Mike Talkman and Patrick Wisdom, they got to get going as well. Says Suzuki, I want to start to see him break out and take his game offensively to the next level.
And this is kind of like the best time to do that, though, against the Cardinals team that's been, like I said, their pitch has been kind of blah, so maybe they can kind of, all those guys you mentioned, can kind of get out of that hump. I know that Michael Bush hasn't had a good last couple of weeks. He had a hot start. He's kind of cooled off a little bit, so hopefully they can get it going here against a team that they probably should win 2 out of 3. I mean, it might be a little much to ask of them to sweep. That might be saying a little bit too much. But if they can at least win the series and say, look, the Milwaukee's has had a tough week, so that, like I said, that could take solace in that if you're a Cubs fan. But try to just win 2 out of 3 against the Cardinals team. You should be able to do that, and hopefully you can kind of get back on track. Going into the to like the last week of May.
Your starting pitchers for the Chicago Cubs this weekend tonight is Shota Imanaga. Tomorrow is Jameis Italian, and for Sunday it's undecided. And Lakina, 2 out of 3. I don't think that's an insurmountable odds. I expect the Cubs to take 2 out of 3 for St. Louis this weekend. We'll get to what they did earlier in this week on the flip side of this break, but even though the Cardinals are trying to figure it out, like the Cubs offensively, the Cubs are bet by their starting pitching. Let's be real here, especially with Imanaga going tonight. I think he's really been the MVP of this Cubs team so far this year with 17, 18 different players going on the injury list already. You have to give the starting staff, along with Imanaga, credit for hanging in there. They're still hanging around first place. So I expect them to take 2 out of 3 for the Cardinals. I just want to see his offense be more consistent. I don't think that's too much to ask.
No, not at all. I mean, you just score like 5 to 10, like 5, 7 runs. No one say you should score 20 against it, because that's gonna be hard to do, especially consistently. But yeah, just like 5 to 7 runs. That's it. You should be able to win 2 of those 3 games. No problem. So we'll see what happens there. Now after the break, of course, not a good week for the White Sox. They lose 2 out of 3 in Toronto. They
Nah.
come back here. They actually give Baltimore all they can handle. Got like a bad. It was a bad call, but it was kind of a technicality. But whatever, we'll talk about that. Also this weekend in MLB, and so many. Like, yeah, I'm sure. Well, that I'm sure it was Sox. Said all these Sox fan that feels that way. But also the rest of MLB and the Yankees and the Mariners had a nice little series this week. The Dodgers and the D-bats had a good series as well. So a lot to do still. More of Diamond Talk coming up. Lakina McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago special pre-Memorial Day edition coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to the special Memorial Day weekend edition of Second City Sports. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow Matt Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X, and again, the IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left or so in this extravaganza we call it a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us as we talk about the Chicago White Sox and the rest of Major League Baseball, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
And speaking of the White Sox, they lose 2 out of 3 in Toronto, which we all kind of figured that was going to happen. Now they did give, in their four-game opener against the Orioles, they did give them all they can handle. They came, tried to make a comeback. They were kind of, tied. Well, the winning one was going to come into the plate. Unfortunately, there was, I guess Andrew Vaughn, supposedly interfered with. It was an infield fly rule and all the other weirdness. And I guess like the technical term, I guess that they can't call that the ump's discretion. It's a silly rule, but there's a lot of rules of baseball that are kind of silly. But a tough way for the Sox to lose. They were kind of on the comeback trail. They, like I said, gave the Orioles all they could handle. But unfortunately, they lose 8-6. Like I said, they lose 2 out of 3 in Toronto. So, but again, not too bad. I mean, that Wednesday game kind of like a microcosm of the Sox season. Oh, and also, by the way, Eloy pulled his hamstring is going to be gone for 4 to 6 weeks, like clockwork. Now, Luis Robert Jr. should be back next week, so I guess there's a little bit of solace there for Sox fans. But as the Sox turns, I guess, but for the White Sox, but yeah,
I don't know
not
if
a
you
good
see the
last
water
couple of days
bottle,
for the
but it's
White Sox.
turning. I
Oh,
don't know if you can see
what'd
Lakina,
you
but
say,
I got
Sid?
the. As I don't know if you see my water bottle, but the clock is turning on the White Sox.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Oh yeah, I see that.
Excuse me. But uh, well, Louis bobblehead are available tomorrow at the Sox game. That's where I would be, but that's a whole nother issue. But I'll start out with the good. The only victory that the Sox had this week was this past Tuesday against the Toronto Blue Jays. Garrett Crochet, 5 shutout innings, only giving up 2 hits while striking out 4. He's been the ace of that starting rotation. I know about Eric Fetty. He's been a good comeback story so far this year, but we know Garrett Crochet is the heart of that staff for the starting staff for the White Sox. And Michael Kopech was able to strike out 3 batters to collect his save for the season, for the game. Now, last night, Lakina, the White Sox should have not been in that position last night. Here's why: the first inning, and I believe the third inning, you had the bases loaded. You could only squeak out 1 run in each inning. And let me repeat that again:
Oops.
bases loaded in the first inning, bases loaded in the third inning. You can only collect 1 run out of each situation, out of those each of those situations in those 2 innings. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Now the play. Andrew Benintendi pops it up. Andrew Vaughn, minding his own damn business, is going back to second base. I'm not saying he didn't know that Gunnar Henderson wasn't there, but Andrew Vaughn was doing what he was supposed to do. Go back to second base because he knew that the pop-up, the infield fly rule was in. Gunnar Henderson, to his credit, just slightly was trying to avoid Andrew Vaughn, did it successfully, and made the out. Now, if you want to go on a technicality, the umpires got it right. But for some chicken shit like that, excuse my French, that totally blows my mind. And I heard John Scherfer's call last night on NBC Sports Chicago. He was dead on. You really think that these umps? I know they have a difficult job, and we get it, we respect it, but Gunnar Henderson wasn't really affected because you saw he made the play, and Andrew Vaughn wasn't really in the way he was going back to second base. Okay, he kind of grazed him a little bit. Okay, but did it really affect the play, Lakina? No.
Well, yeah, I guess it will. I guess the rule book. I guess because I saw someone had tweeted out a screenshot of the actual rule. It said that I guess if even if just a little bit of interference, like I said, that brother is called out. I don't like I said. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Vaughn didn't know the rule. Who know? Who knows? It's kind of one of those little minuscule type of things. But it's one of those things where you're kind of like this is sort of like a microcosm of the White Sox season. If it's not injuries, if it's, not feeling, right, or not knowing the rules, or even the more minuscule ones. So yeah, I mean, it's sort of like, but yeah, I mean, look, I mean, by the White Sox, I mean, it fell just short. And who knows if that was not if that had not been called, I mean, they probably still would have, lost the game. But I digress. But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's sort of a kind of like what kind of like the White Sox season is so far. I mean, of course, Pedro Fall, of course, was irate as he should have been, but I don't know. I guess you could say it is in the rule book.
Yeah, and so as the hourglass turns upside down for the Chicago White Sox, and they have a series this weekend against the Baltimore Orioles, as you mentioned, Lakina. They'll play the next 3 games here in Chicago starting tonight. Tonight's game, by the way, for those of you that are interested, will be on Apple TV Plus. Sunday's game is in question because it's supposed to be heavy rain and thunderstorms, so we don't know if Sunday's game is going to get played. But tonight's game and tomorrow's game, i.e., Louis Robert Jr. bobblehead day, those games will get played. So for those of you who want a free gift starting tomorrow, go to the South Side like yours surely will be. But I digress.
Stage right out there, Sid. But yeah, it'll be nice. It should be the rain.
Yeah, it's
I know
supposed to be
it's
nice
rain.
tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll say I know it's raining right now here in Chicago. You guys hear thunder, but it will clear up by the time the game starts, so that won't be a problem there. Sunday's game is going to be a problem, but I'm sure we'll figure it out as it goes. Now, the rest of the MLB is just like I see sports on Sports Chicago. Keith McGee, Cindy Brown with you. The Yankees and the Mariners had a nice 4-game split. I mean, it's sort of. I think each team kind of like I wouldn't mind 7 of these games coming up, later this year. But I digress. I mean, the Mariners win the first 2, the Yankees win the last 2, of course, including a shutout yesterday. the breakaway series. But look, I think both teams had their stars kind of shine for shines. Bless you.
Yeah, thank you. Aaron Judge did that to the Seattle Mariners pitching with a couple of home runs in that series. Also, too, Juan Soto has been heaven sent for this Yankees team. We talked about him at the start of the year. He's one of the best young hitters in this generation, and he's proven it. Also, he's not a bad outfielder either. And we talk about the Yankees starting pitch. I believe their starting staff has a 1.46 ERA. It's been very impressive. And they make you forget they don't even have Garrett Cole yet. He's supposed to return in not too distant future. But Luis Gil yesterday, Lakina pitched a shutout. He improved his record to 6-1. Yesterday, St. Louis Gil they struck out 14 White Sox batters last Saturday afternoon. So he's having a good year. We talked about Nestor Cortez. He was the new kid on the block a couple years ago, struggling with injuries and inconsistencies. Is finally starting to give him some run support. He actually got the win. Got the win on Wednesday in that 7-3 win over Seattle, the first win of that series for the Yankees. Now Cortez's record is now 3-4 on the year. I know Carlos Rodon pitched well the other night in the loss, but looks like he's starting to get his control back as well. So, all for the if you're a New York Yankees fan, you shouldn't have too much to complain about. The only thing you would have Juan Soto, let's say smooth sailing for the Yankees, but they'll have it's going to be a real chance for the AL East tie between them and Baltimore.
Now, as far as the Mariners are concerned, of course, Julio Rodriguez had a big showing that Tuesday game, and Brian Wu, of course, outdueled Rodon in that second game for the Mariners. So it's like I said, I wouldn't mind like 7 of these games coming up later this year. I know they do play again in Seattle in about like a couple of months, but a really very thrilling 4-gamer, which I'm glad they split. So that was an entertaining series there. Now. The Red Sox got swept by Tampa. Now the Tampa Bay starting to kind of figure things out a bit, but I mean the Red Sox, not a good showing this week.
Yeah, we talk about Tampa Bay and the Red Sox. These two teams marry each other, and if for the Red Sox, if it's not the pitching, it's the hitting. If it's not the hitting, it's the pitching. So. The way the series played out is the way these two teams have mirrored themselves all year long. So, as the great Bill Parcells says, your record is what you say you are. There's something to that effect. You know what I'm trying to get at. So, both these teams are mediocre, and they showed it this week. So we shouldn't be too surprised.
No, we shouldn't. We talked about Toronto being Sox 2 out of 3. I mean, it looks that Wednesday game, like I said, I think this is kind of like the Toronto team that we all thought we were going to see, scoring 9 runs and just basically like hitting the ball like crazy. So we'll see if they can keep it up.
Yeah, we're talking about their offense. The talented names right now, about like Bo Bichette, Cavan Biggio, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who's having a tough time this year. But it's their starting pitchers going to have to carry them until the offense figures it out. And they did that with the White Sox this week. We'll see if that can continue as they try to get back to 500.
Going to the AL Central, 6 in a row for the Guardians. They sweep the Mets, and they just. I think the Guardians are starting to kind of figure things out. Jonathan Rodriguez, he drove the go ahead run for his first major league hit. So good showing by the rookie there, and also too Jose Ramirez, the Sox killer as people call him, as our buddy Herb Lawrence does with his show White Sox. He drove in 3 in that earlier in that series against the Mets. So the Guardians are looking pretty good.
Yeah, I said it once on our last episode. I'll say it again. Jose Ramirez, he's a top candidate for AL MVP next to Juan Soto and Aaron Judge.
Now, another team that's won 6 in a row, staying in that division, is the Royals. Bobby Wood Jr. became the first MLB player to have it. He now has at least 100 total bases, 30 RBIs, and 15 stolen bases in the first 50 games of the season. Barry Bonds was the last one to do it all the way back in 1992, as they sweep the Tigers, and the Royals don't look now. They're still at the two, keeping up with the Guardians.
Yeah, the Royals are getting it done, scrappy style. Bobby, as you mentioned, Bobby Wood Jr. getting it done. Don't forget about Salvador Perez, the ageless veteran. He's still hanging around, coming up with big hits. But I really like the end of their starting rotation, and their bullpen looks like it's starting to come around as well. Now, will they be able to overtake Cleveland and Detroit for the division? I'm not sure. I got to see it in the long run, but the way they're playing right now, they could be a contender for one of those 3 wildcard spots in the AL. But as we said before, the American League as a whole is going to be tough. So Kansas City, as long as they don't have any major injuries, all teams have to go through tough spots. But if they can survive those tough times and still come out okay, I think they'll be in it for the long run. But I'm still in wait and see mode.
We'll just see if they can keep it up. Now, Minnesota with the after kind of they had a little bit of a bump, losing 7 in a row, but they did win the last 2 against the Nationals, and it looks like they're starting to kind of get it going. Carlos Correa hit the go-ahead home run for the Twins to finish off and win that series against the Nats. And the Twins, they, like I said, they had a little bit of a hiccup, but they're starting to get going again. But yeah, we'll see how the Twins do later on this season.
Yeah, they responded to that again. Shout out on Monday. They mentioned they won the last 2 games. We talk about Carlos Correa. We talk about Byron Buxton. Those 2 big hitters lean that Twins lineup. But I want to see how Minnesota's Twins, their starting staff. I'm not impressed by them at all. And their bullpen's been okay. But I want to see that starting staff trying to take it to the next level. We'll see, because Detroit and Cleveland are ahead of them. And I'll say this right now, even though I don't give a damn about the Twins being a Sox fan. I'm just being objective here. I like the Tigers and Guardians bullpen better than I like the Twins bullpen. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think if it comes down to that, especially for one of those wild card spots, yeah, you probably are right about that. Now going to the AL West, we talked about this at the Seattle and the Rangers, the defending champs. A good week. They got swept by a hot Phillies team. We'll get to them in a second, but yeah, I mean, I know Rangers fans might be a little bit worried right now. I know they had a little bit of a kind of tough last few weeks. They lose 2 out of 3 against the Angels, and they get swept by Philly. And should Rangers fans be a little bit worried? They're 24-27.
Yes, you should be a little worried. I'm not going to sit here and say the sky is falling, because they have too much talent on that team. I know they're the defending world champs and all that, but their starting pitching has been roughed up here lately, especially in that series against Philadelphia. We talked about the Phillies lineup, and for Texas, their starting pitching, I think, has been on fatigue mode. Their bullpen hasn't been great. Offensively, they can still get it done, but just like it all starts with pitching, and the Rangers starters found that out the hard way going on the road to Philly.
Yeah, hopefully they can get that pitching get together, or else the Mariners. I'm not gonna say the Mariners are gonna run away with the AL West, but yeah, they might get out of there pretty quick. Houston losing 2 out of 3 to the Mike Troutless Angels, and you thought maybe Houston was starting to kind of figure things out, but then again, of course, now they lose 2 out of 3 to the Angels.
Yeah, Houston, as we talked about on our last few shows, that their whole starting staff were suffering through injuries. Now they're starting to get some of those guys back. I know Justin Verlander has been back for the last couple of weeks. Kyle Tucker, a future AL MVP candidate, has been heating it up here lately. So it looks like the offense is starting to come around for Houston. We'll see what happens in the long run. You still have Jose Altuve. And you still have Jose Abreu, who traditionally struggles in April and May. Hopefully he can get it going whenever he gets back in the lineup. So Houston, I'm not going to say here they come, but it looks like they're starting to figure things out. And just like we said last year, when they're starting pitching was struggling all the times, it starts and ends with that offense.
It definitely does. So we'll see what happens now. Oakland won 2 out of 3 against Colorado. Oakland, it's these two. I mean, you're facing these 2 teams that you thought that maybe were going to be like, but they're showing that there are no pushovers. I mean, I mean, especially that we'll talk about the Rockies in a second because they did something pretty interesting in that one game that they did win. They had, the A's have had two different games this month where each were just, the 4 through 9 hitters all had multiple hits. So they're the first team to have two such games in a single season all the way, well, a calendar month all the way back. You got to go back to the Yankees all the way back in 1939. I'm talking about that 10-9 game where they just edged them out with the home run. Tyler Soderstrom threw a bases loaded walk to cap off that 5-run 11th inning, which cap off that win against the Rockies to finish up that series. But a pretty thrilling series with two teams that we don't not going to go anywhere, but they're showing you that they're not going to be pushovers either. We talked about that with the A's, especially in the last month.
Yeah, you have JJ Bleday.
Mm-hmm.
You still have Ryan Rooker.
Mm-hmm.
Brenton Rooker, I should say. And have y'all ask her. I mean, anything anytime soon, especially with their situation as far as this franchise is concerned. If you're an Oakland A's player, you just go out there playing free and without a care in the world, and you give the other team their best shot. That's what's happened so far this year.
Yes, it has. So, like I said, we'll see if they can both teams can keep that up. Now, easily the hottest team in MLB is the Phillies. Like I said, they sweep the reigning World Series champ Angels, and they're doing it all. They're doing it with their pitching, they're doing it with their hitting. They've won 6 in a row. Zach Wheeler scored tossed 7 good innings yesterday. Yesterday to cap off that sweep. Castellanos is doing his thing. Of course, Bryce Harper's doing his thing. So at least so far, I think the Phillies are showing you why they're probably the best team in the league.
Yeah, and don't forget about that starting pitcher too, led by Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola as well. And their bullpen has been solid for them all year. So the Philadelphia Phillies have it clicking on all cylinders right now. We talked about the Braves and their problems here, even though they took 2 out of 3 on the north side against the Cubs. If Philadelphia just stays basically injury free, there's going to be a real battle between them and the Braves for the NL East crown.
Should be interesting. I think they do play each other in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see we'll find out who's the king in that division. Now going into the Central, the NL Central, the Brewers lose 2 out of 3 to the Marlins. Now you thought that like I said, the only good thing for the Cubs is that the teams around them in that division haven't been playing very well. So it looks like maybe the Brewers are starting to kind of fall back to earth a little bit. So they play the Red Sox starting tonight. But I mean, they lost a tough one in that third game, against the Gatekeeper series against the Marlins, 1-0. But it looks like they're starting to fall back to earth a little bit.
Yeah, Milwaukee, we talk about them being a scrappy team. They're led by their starting pitching in their bullpen. They do just enough on offense to get by, but sometimes you lose some of those games, and that's what happens until the inferior team. But I still believe Milwaukee's going to be okay. We know about the struggles with the Cubs. We talked about that in our last segment. Cincinnati, they're off to a rough start this year. Not as bad as the people expected, but they're still struggling to get to 500. And Pittsburgh is still hanging around, if you want to say in air quotes. So Milwaukee shouldn't have too much to worry about. As long as they play above 500, they'll be okay.
Yeah, we'll see. They can kind of at least a challenge, probably stay within that in that Central there. Now we talked about the Cardinals, some of the various problems that they're having. Pittsburgh, you thought that maybe Pittsburgh might be kind of like playing around there in that division, but they lose 2 out of 3 to the Giants. They face the Braves starting tonight. So the Pirates, the Reds, same thing. They lose 2 out of 3 to the Padres. So I guess you thought that maybe they were right there in third place a couple weeks ago. Now they've kind of been in free fall. So Cincy, yikes.
Yeah, for Cincinnati, it's been their starting pitching has not been good this year. We know what the talent they have offensively, led by my guy Ellie De La Cruz, but the starting pitch has to get back on track, and the offense has to be more lethal as well. And that's what happens with the young teams. I know they took a big leap last year, almost made the playoffs, but with young teams like this, they got to find some consistency. They got to find it soon.
And they gotta find it, the sooner the better, because you don't want to be, out of that division, too quick. Now going to the West, the Dodgers are trying 3 to the Diamondbacks, including being shut out on Wednesday, and I'm surprised. Dodgers fans are actually pretty mellow, which you would think that they lose 2 out of 3. People are probably like, "Oh my god!" But I think they're still the Dodgers. Look, the guys coming back, so I think people need to kind of just. I'm surprised, but I'm sure there are some Dodgers that probably are freaking out right now. Oh my god, they lost 2 out of 3 to the D-bats, but I think it's sort of even because I think they beat them 2 out of 3 about a couple of weeks ago. So Dodgers fans, chill, okay? That's all I'm gonna say about that.
You said what I was going to say about the Dodgers, but the Diamondbacks, they weren't afraid of the Dodgers. They took advantage of some mistakes, and it looks like their bats are starting to wake up, especially with Jamie Carroll there. I know they had some injuries to start the year. That's why they're struggling. But Arizona, just like what they did last year against the Dodgers, they came into Dodger Stadium not afraid, went after them early and put the pedal to the metal. So if you're in Arizona, you got to have some consistency on offense as well. So maybe hopefully this is a springboard if you're a Diamondbacks fan.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, they're like the Padres. They have the Dodgers number a little bit, but then they can't, play well against everyone else. So, we saw, although the Padres did have a nice week, like I said. So, we'll see if they can kind of, get it going here because they're 2 games under 500. So we'll see what happens there and the rest of that NL West. Now going to this weekend series, the Braves and the Pirates. Speaking of, they start their series tonight. Toronto won the opener against the Tigers last night. They stay in their series. Seattle and Washington, that should be a fun one. Kansas City and Tampa Bay, that should be an interesting series. Of course, speaking of the Dodgers, they go on the road against Cincinnati. They won 3 out of 4 in that series at Dodger Stadium, so maybe they can keep that up. And the other game on Apple TV Plus, of course, with the Orioles White Sox game, you got Milwaukee and Boston, the first game of their series. That's starting tonight.
The rest of the weekend series looks like this. The San Francisco Giants will travel to New York to face the New York Mets. The Texas Rangers will travel to Minnesota to face the Twins. The Cubs and the Cardinals will do battle from St. Louis starting tonight. Remember, folks, for those of you watching on MLB.tv, if you're watching a Cardinals broadcast from Bally Sports Midwest, Joe Buck will be on the call for one night only with Chip Carey on the Cardinals broadcast. So check that out if you have availability to watch that telecast of the series for the weekend. Philadelphia is at Colorado. Cleveland's at LA to take on the Angels. Houston is at Oakland. And the Miami Marlins are at Arizona to take on the Diamondbacks. And the New York Yankees will be in San Diego to face the Padres.
Ooh, lots of fun series all around there. Now, of course, we talked about the Apple TV Plus games. Of course, the Fox regional action coming up tomorrow night. You got, of course, the Cubs and the Cardinals. Most of the nation will get that, and the Dodgers and the Reds, both at 6:15 tomorrow. Also, too, of course, your Sunday night also is the Cubs and the Cardinals, so they're getting that treatment, the national treatment. So that is just good for this week in MLB.
We will not be here on Monday because of Memorial Day, so we'll give you the Memorial Day schedule, and it looks like this. Toronto will face the White Sox on the south side of Chicago. Boston will travel to Baltimore. Kansas City will take on Minnesota in the key AL Central race battle. The Cubs will face the Brewers in Milwaukee. We'll see what happens there. A big series for both teams. Cleveland will visit Colorado. The Dodgers will continue their East Coast road trip. They'll take on the Mets. The Cardinals, St. Louis Cardinals will face Cincinnati. Washington visits Atlanta. Philadelphia will face the San Francisco Giants in the West Coast. Miami Marlins will visit the West Coast to take on the San Diego Padres. And the Houston Astros, as Sean Sierra would say, they'll take on La Quina Seattle Mariners.
Should be a fun series there, and I think you got all the series out that's starting. Cause I think most of the series will start on Monday, going into Tuesday. So the rubber matches there. So yeah. So going into next week, of course, like I said, we won't be on today. We will be on Wednesday. So we'll definitely have recaps of all these great series and a lot to talk about. Catch up on. So yeah. So enjoy this weekend in baseball for Memorial Day.
All right, hour number 1 is shut down, but hour number 2 will open up with the NBA playoffs talk. Anthony Edwards was tired at the end of game 1 in the Western Conference Final. We'll discuss. Are the Indiana Pacers done being down 2-0 to the Celtics? We'll discuss. Also, too, the Winger had their top 25 players under 25. Someone had an issue. We'll discuss, and we'll have New York sports talk with our good friend Ryan Field from ABC7 in NYC. That and a whole lot more. You stick and stay right there on Second City Sports, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, a special Memorial Day weekend edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am City Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG as SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X, and here's going to get an IG.
We have less than 55 minutes left for this extravaganza. We call it a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us as we discuss the NBA playoffs, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And just for a daily reminder, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live in the 11 color, not now, but right now on Roku TV.
All right, so let's talk some playoffs. Conference finals. Playoffs. Let's talk some conference finals. We'll start with the NBA first. Of course, last night, the Celtics had no trouble with The Pacers 126-110, and unfortunately Tyrese Halliburton got hurt with his hamstring injury. So I'm trying to see if there hasn't really been updates on the extent of that injury, but if you guys remember earlier this season he missed 10 games. So yeah, that's not good if you're a Pacers fan now. You know, Jaylen Brown just went crazy. 40 points, which is I think that's up there as right near a playoff high for him. A double from Mr. Drew Holiday. Of course, Jason Tatum did his thing with 23 points. So it was basically all Celtics, from start to finish.
Yeah, we reviewed this series from a Pacers perspective. You played well in game one. If it wasn't for that 3-point shot from the left corner from Jaylen Brown at the end of regulation, you would have won that game. Last night's game. Sorry, last night's game. You could tell they were in Lakina, but I don't know about you, but I got the feeling that the Boston Celtics were in control, and this was before the Halliburton injury, and of course the roof caved in for the Pacers. But two statistics that stood out to me from last night's game for Indiana: 16 turnovers and having a -20 ratio in terms of points in the paint. Boston Celtics dominated that statistic, 54-34.
Yeah, that definitely. Like I said, they were just so completely dominant. The game was over by halftime, especially once Halliburton got hurt. I mean, that was basically kind of lights out for them. And I think if you're the Pacers, especially if that hamstring of his is going to be an issue, I don't want to say the series is over. Like, look at me. I had the Pacers in 7. What do I know? But what do
I wasn't
know?
gonna rub it in, but
I can knock myself out. Well, you can rub it if you want to, Sid. I'm not gonna yell at you about it. It's fine. But yeah, I mean, I thought, well, especially after game one, I mean, they had their chance to steal that first game. They couldn't do it. And to Coach Carlisle's credit, he did say that it was on him. So I guess he didn't blame the ref. So I guess that's progress for him. But yeah, I mean, you can't let a chance like that slip away. So now you're in a 2-0 hole. The last team to do that was the 2019 Raptors. Of course, that was with Kawhi and Lowry in that game against the Bucks. I don't know if they can do that, but guys like Siakam, they have to. He has to step up. Nesmith has to step up, especially if Halliburton's going to be out for maybe a game, maybe 2. I mean, Miles Turner. I mean, a lot of the guys that are kind of like that help get the Pacers to upset the Knicks. They're gonna have to step up, especially if Halliburton's not gonna be at 100%.
And we talked about this player being a pest, and I thought their underrated MVP in that last run against the Knicks, TJ McConnell. I want to see how head coach Rick Carlisle is going to play this with Halliburton. We assume he's not going to play tomorrow night. And if that's the case, how many minutes he's going to give TJ McConnell, because we all know McConnell is the point guard that anchors that second unit coming off the bench. Not only can he give you something offensively, but he's great defensively, gives you that energy, and it picks guys up. So I wonder how many minutes that Carlisle is going to give him with Halliburton being out for the foreseeable future.
That's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Now, like I said, it looks like the Subs are kind of on a mission. So I think you're seeing this big, Tatum hit that big shot that forced overtime against the Pacers on Tuesday, and it was just one of those things where you're kind of like Tatum stepped up. Like I said, we know what we saw Jaylen Brown did. Derek White. I mean, the Angels wonder Mr. Al Horford showed a little bit of early Horford in that stretch. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, Peyton Pritchard, I think, was solid too for 12 points. You wonder, is he going to kind of have to be the guy from the bench, because we know the Celtics don't go that deep. So it's going to be interesting to see if you're the Pacers. You kind of have to go back to the drawing board, especially if Halliburton's not going to be at 100%. So look. I don't want to say tomorrow's game 3 is a must win, but it is pivotal for the Pacers for confidence, if nothing else.
Yeah, and you know how that crowd is going to be rocking at the stadium formerly known as Conseco Fieldhouse. The Pacers have been in the conference finals about 7 to 8 years, so the fans are going to be rowdy. They're going to be ready. So, and with the Indianapolis 500, the racing event being in town, so they're going to be extra pumped. But for the Celtics, Lakina, I don't know about you, but I've been listening to a couple of other national podcasts over the last 24, 48 hours or so. As the great Morgan Freeman said in the movie Lean on Me, Ghosts are spirits that rise from the dead. What have we been talking about the Celtics issue all year? Their bench. And what are these two podcasters, one of these from one show that I was listening to, they're concerned about Boston's bench. We've been telling you that all year. Now, you mentioned Peyton Pritchard has been the one consistent guy in these last few games for the Celtics stepping up. Sam Hauser, my guy, I know he's a rookie and all, but he's been struggling so far in the playoffs coming off the bench. He only had 2 points last night. I know the game was pretty much out of hand, but you expect more out of him. Luke Cornett, their big guy. I know he's getting some playing time because of the injury to Kristaps Porzingis, but outside of Pritchard, you're really not getting anything from your bench. And sooner or later, it's going to come back to bite you.
If they advance to the NBA Finals, whoever they play, we'll talk about the Dallas Minnesota series in a second. But those two teams can go a good maybe 8 to 10 deep, maybe 12 deep in some case in one of the cases. But if you're trying to, if you're hopefully if you're the Celtics, you probably try to sweep, perhaps you'll get a lot of rest, but you're gonna someone's got to step up in the bench because Tatum and Brown, they're not gonna be able to do it all by themselves. So somebody's gonna have to be that guy. Will it be Pritchard? Will it be Tillman? So it's gonna be interesting to see what the Celtics do, especially if somehow the Pacers can come back and at least win one of these next two series in Indy.
And if you're the Boston Celtics, let's just say you're assuming that they win Game 3 tomorrow night. I think they're playing this perfectly, managing the injury to Kristaps Porzingis. Let's be real. The Celtics thought they were going to face Denver in the NBA Finals. Now, since Denver's out, they're still going to have problems if they face Minnesota or Dallas. If you're the Celtics, call me crazy, unless this series gets extended to 6 or 7, you don't need Porzingis. Save him for the NBA Finals because I know that he's a scorer. He can score inside, but he's basically a shooter from the outside, especially at this point in his career. So if you're Boston, I think you're playing this correctly, especially without Halliburton. You should beat Indiana with no problem. You don't need Porzingis. Just have him rest up for the NBA Finals that starts less than 2 weeks.
Should be interesting to see what happens there. It's just like I see Sports on Sports Chicago, Lakeem McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Let's go to the Western Conference Finals. Of course, the Mavs have a 1-0 lead over the T-Wolves, and Anthony Edwards said after that game 1 loss that he was tired and that you can kind of tell because the way he was shooting some of the shots that he usually makes, he was missing. They kind of ran out of gas. He kind of saw that, especially in that fourth quarter. Luka made some big shots late. PJ Washington also made some big shots late for them. Kyrie shot some big shots for the Mavs as well. But if you're the T-Wolves, I mean, this was your chance to kind of steal a game. Even though you played a game 7 on the road, you kind of took a couple of days to recover. But even still, I mean, Cats 16 points, you could do more, dude. Gobert 12 points, you could do more too as well. Mike Conley, I know you're a little bit banged up, but you can do a little bit more as well. We had your guys, coming off the bench. Naz Reid, kind of helped jumpstart that the first part of that, the first half of that game. Kyle Anderson as well. So I think if you're the T-Wolves, I mean, yeah, it would have been nice if they had won that game. That actually would have been a steal there, considering they played a game 7 2 days before. But this is your chance to try to even this series, because if you don't, you go to Dallas 2-0. You don't want that. So if you're Andy's gonna have to step up. All the guys I mentioned got to step up as well. So kind of, because that target is going to be rocking. So you want to kind of try to at least wear out the Mavs and just see if you can try to even this series.
Just like we talked about with the Pacers, game 2 loss last night. You kind of got that same feeling with the Minnesota-Dallas game 1 on Wednesday. Minnesota kind of had control of the game, but Dallas just made a few bigger plays down the stretch. And I don't know why the refs decided to call the goaltending on that tip dunk by Karl-Anthony Towns. I will never understand it. But yeah. And we have replay, and they still got that call wrong, but I digress. But as you mentioned, Lakina, Dallas has their stars playing well right now. I know Tim Hardaway Jr. didn't score any points in the first game in 10 minutes of action off the bench. But you talk about PJ Washington, who's been having a great playoff run so far. He had a great series in the last series against OKC. You talk about Derek Lively, 9 points, 3 rebounds in game 1 in this series against the T-Wolves. So he's starting to play well. Also, too, let's not forget about Daniel Gafford. Bulls fans remember him in the Jim Boylan era. He's starting to step up as well. He had 10 points along with 9 rebounds in game one. So he's starting to come on. And Jason Kidd, we all know he's a very good head coach, a very good defensive coach. And he made the adjustments, and he saw what Denver tried to do in the last 2 games of that series against Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, you talked about him being fatigued. Partially it was because of the 7-game series against Denver, but let's give Jason Kidd and the Dallas defense credit. They knew what to do, unlike Denver in the last 2 games of the previous series.
Yeah, you don't want to use a fatigue thing as an excuse. Not to say that it's not a legitimate excuse. It is, but again, you don't want to. You can kind of see. You saw that they were able to. Luka kind of handcuffed him a little bit. I know Kyrie kind of did that as well. So, if you're Anthony Edwards, I'm sure you probably heard it from some folks that was he over? Are you overhyped or whatever? So hopefully, you can use that as motivation to perhaps try to even this series. I mean, like I said, you don't want to go to Dallas down 0-2 if you're Minnesota. So try to even it out and then just have it be a best of 5 after that. So you probably should have won that game, but again, that goaltending call. Let's not. We won't go there, but yeah. I mean, look, I think Dallas. I think showed you why. Look, they were in the Western Conference Finals last year. I mean, this is not. It's not like this is new for them. So the experience maybe a little bit. I mean, Minnesota's their first time in this in 20 years. So you kind of think they're starting to learn curve for them as well. So hopefully Chris Finch can kind of make some adjustments as well. Like who it's kind of like pick your poison. Do you try to defend Luka? Or do you try to defend Kyrie? And maybe force the supporting cast kind of step up. So it kind of the same situation for Minnesota as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens tonight, especially. So yeah, that's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, as we talk about all the time, playoffs are about matchups and adjustments. And after the first couple of games, it all comes down to execution. And we're going to see this example play out in this series. I think Anthony Edwards is going to have a monster game tonight. We talked about Jay McDaniels. He had 24 points, but Karl-Anthony Towns is going to have to stay out of foul trouble. He has to be more aggressive offensively, in my opinion. He doesn't have a jump for 40 piece like Anthony Edwards can, but he's going to have more than 16 points. I'm talking about Karl-Anthony Towns to be effective tonight. And I think he's had to step up more defensively. We'll see what happens there. Also, too, the Minnesota Timberwolves has to crash the boards. They didn't do that in game one. They were a -8 in that department. Dallas out-rebounded them 48-40. So I want to see the T-Wolves crash the boards tonight. Start to get back to getting their hands on loose balls like they did at the end of that Denver series. If they can do those 2 things, I think they'll win tonight.
I think they will too. Like I said, if they I think they're gonna have I think it's gonna have a big showing tonight. But like I said, I think Gobert, McDaniels, those guys are gonna have to step up too to kind of help them out. So we'll see. It should be a fun game too. Speaking of game 2, of course, that is tonight. Of course, TNT, the home of the Western Conference Finals. That'll be at 7:30.
Yep. And tomorrow night on ABC, Saturday Night Buckets will feature Game 3 of the Boston, Indiana series of the Eastern Conference Finals as this series shifts to Indianapolis, Indiana. Game 3 of the Dallas, Minnesota series will be on Sunday. That's on TNT. And yes, we'll get Memorial Day basketball this year, Lakina. That'll be Game 4 of the Boston, Indianapolis series. That game can be seen on ESPN at 7 o'clock. Central Standard Time on ESPN. Tomorrow night's game can be seen on ABC.
Also on ESPN 2 for the Memorial Day. So after you have your barbecue and such, will depend on where you're at. You can watch a little bit playoff basketball. And on Tuesday, of course, it'll be Game 4. We'll see where the series is at that point in Dallas. 7:30 down there in Dallas on TNT.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sia Lakina here with you talking NBA basketball. Before we get to the ringers list, and hopefully my new computer won't screw this up. I sent you an article that I read yesterday from Yahoo Sports, and as you told me and messaged me back, someone's been playing with the trade machine as we talk about the Chicago Bulls. They're trying to unload Zach LaVine on any and everybody that will give an actual listen to what Arturas Karnisovas and GM Mark Eversley. And I'm paraphrasing here, but the rumor has it, according to this article, that the Bulls could trade Zach LaVine to the Brooklyn Nets in exchange for Ben Simmons' $40 million contract, which he's a free agent at the end of next season. in some first round picks. Lakina, call me crazy. Basketball wise, we know Ben Simmons, he's done. I know that back injury. I know some people question, is that back injury real? Yes, it is. But he's been a head case, no pun intended, everywhere he's gone. I know that the Bulls need to create some salary cap space. Basketball wise, it does not make sense, but economic wise, it does. As we said before, if the Bulls bring everybody back for next year, there'll be $1 million over the salary cap tax. And, the penalties kick in this summer. So Jerry Reinsdorf is not going to take that chance, or rightfully so. And number two, this Bulls franchise needs first round picks.
Yeah, but Simmons, I mean, look, you already had a player that hasn't played in the last 2 years. I mean, granted, in Lonzo Ball's case, it's been injuries, not other stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes sense basketball wise, but I mean, Ben Simmons is a when has Ben Simmons actually been Ben Simmons since he was at LSU? That for like 10 minutes he was there. Like, I mean, for me, I just like, yeah, it makes sense, but I'm just like, no. And we should send that over to our buddies over at CHGO Bulls, Matt and Big Dave. I'm sure they'll probably look at you like you're crazy, like I'm looking at you crazy right now. So, and I'm sure they probably read the rumors. So, yeah, you gotta unload that money somehow. But yeah, I know they need first round picks, but it's just like, nah, there has to be another way, because Simmons, yeah, the Bulls fans will love that, him in a Bulls uniform. Ooh, yeah, that'll be fun. No. For him to not play and pay him $40 million, no.
All right. But he will come off the books next year regardless. So, but we'll see what happens there. Of course, the rumors to the Lakers are starting to kick up, because we all know that Rich Paul, he's the business partner for LeBron James, Clutch Sports. And of course, Zach LaVine is represented by Clutch Sports. And of course, now those rumors are starting to heat up with Zach LaVine to the Lakers. What do the Lakers really have to get to the Bulls? Austin Reeves, fine. Maybe Rui Hachimura, their power forward. But really, what do the Lakers have to give to the Bulls?
I don't think they really have much of anything. Like I said, they're
my
pushing
point.
Well, they're pushing up against the cap themselves, and I know they got to get rid of some money too. So I know, like, Zach's from around that area. He played around there as well for college. So I'm kind of, I guess that kind of makes sense. But yeah, the Lakers really don't have anything. So unless LeBron wants to play with I don't know who want to play with that's on the team now. But they want Caruso back. Kind of have a little reunion there, or
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like one of those things where it's just like you're stuck in a rock and a hard place if you're AK and Mark Eversley, who of course Trey Atlanta ended up getting that job with the Pistons as a VP of basketball ops. But I don't know. I mean, look, they got a very tough. They have a very, very tough decisions coming up this summer, and with the draft coming up at the end of next month, or near the end of next month, I should say, it's gonna get a little bit interesting to see where the mindset is gonna be for them, and they got to get rid of. They're gonna have to get rid of some money, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, I mean, somebody maybe better come up with something.
Yes, we talked about too. They have to resign DeMar DeRozan, which looks like it's going to happen, because DeMar has said out now he wants to stay with his Bulls team to finish off his career. And as I said before, looking at this current roster, Alex Caruso, in my opinion, brings the most value back, because he can bring you something offensively, but he just won another hustle award from the NBA. So congratulations to him on that. So he brings value from that perspective. Nikolai Vucevic, he's a nice player, but he's not the player that he once was. He's still good, but not the player he once was. I think you can get value for him as well. So one of those guys is going to have to go. Maybe Kobe White, which I doubt, but I hate to say it. Maybe Ayo Dosunmu may have to go as well, depending on which deal's on the table. So you may have to throw his name in if a big deal comes up that involves Zach LaVine. So the Bulls, they may have some options, but it may be the ones they don't like in terms of Zach LaVine. So we still have a long way to go. As I turn my water bottle upside down, the hourglass continues.
Yeah, Second City Sports on Sports. What you got? Lakeem McGee, Cindy Brown with you. That list from the Ringer. Top 25 players under 25. Someone got a little bit miffed that their name was not as high as they thought they would be. So yeah, tell everybody about it.
We'll go through the list quickly, just for time constraints. 25 through 20, Jabari Smith of Houston. Number 24, we have Darius Garland from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Number 23, we have Desmond Bain from Memphis Grizzlies. 22, we have Jalen Green from Houston. Number 21, Jalen Johnson from Atlanta. And number 20, LaMelo Ball from the Charlotte Hornets. Any problems there so far?
Nope.
Okay. Number 19, Jaren Jackson Jr. from Memphis. Number 18, Franz Wagner from the Orlando Magic. He had a very good year this year. He showed his promise against the Cleveland Cavaliers in that opening round series loss. Number 17, Brandon Miller from the Charlotte Hornets. He had a very good rookie season, the rookie out of Alabama. And number 16, he's tied, is Evan Mobley of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Trae Young from the Atlanta Hawks.
I mean, I can kind of see why Trae Young would be a little bit higher back. But considering he's had a lot of injuries, yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm fine with that. Him being there.
Okay, finishing out the list. Number 14, your guy Cade Cunningham for the Detroit Pistons. I know he's been struggling with injuries so far to start off his career with Detroit. Number 13, Scotty Barnes for the Toronto Raptors. I know he's been battling injuries a little bit here too. Alfred Sagan at number 12, the big guy for the Houston Rockets. I really like him. You know, he gave the Bulls problems the last couple of years. And tied for number 10 spot, Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies. You know, he's been injured this year. And tied with him is Zion Williamson from the New Orleans Pelicans.
Okay. So far, so good.
All right, finishing off the list. Number 9, Pablo Banchero from the Orlando Magic. Number 8, Jalen Williams, the guard forward from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Number 7, Chet Holmgren from the Oklahoma City Thunder. And at number 6, Tyrese Maxey from the Philadelphia 76ers. Any issues there so far?
Nope. Nope.
All right, here's your top 5. Tyrese Halliburton from the Indiana Pacers.
Okay.
Number 4, Luka Doncic from the Dallas Mavericks. Number 3, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the point guard who should have been MVP, by the way, from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Number 2, Anthony Edwards from the Minnesota Timberwolves. And number 1, Victor Wembanyama from the San Antonio Spurs, who won Rookie of the Year. So there's your top 25 list for the NBA Ringer. Top 25 players, 25 and under.
Yeah, I can see why I think Luka would not be very happy being only at 4. I give Victor Wembanyama. I mean, he was named, he was the unanimous Rookie of the Year. He was first team all defense. But I don't think I would have had him. I would have him a little bit lower and have Luka a little bit higher. That's just me. But I think you probably would say SGA probably a little bit higher too.
Yeah, I guess I unmute myself. Yeah, I can see your point there. Like I said, I think Wembanyama will be number 1 on this list in about 3 or 4 years when his talent grows. But he had a good rookie year. Obviously, Greg Popovich, the head coach, held him back because he wants to develop him slowly and to bring his game along with the rest of the NBA, which I have no problem with. But him being number 1, I think it's too soon, in my opinion. I think in about 3 or 4 years, this will probably be accurate, but for right now, not really. But I would have Luka up a spot higher, and Anthony Edwards probably a spot higher as well. That's just me.
Yeah,
I know we get caught up in a moment, especially in terms of Anthony Edwards, what he's doing right now, and rightfully so. But Wembanyama, he probably been number 4, number 5 on my list.
Yeah, I think so too. Like I said, I definitely would have him in the top 4. Like I said, I think number 1, that might be a prisoner of the moment kind of thing. I mean, like I said, he'll as he gets older. Look, he's only 19, folks. I think people need to kind of remember that, and he'll get better. So I think having him that high might be a little bit much at the moment. But yeah, I think the top 5 is fine. But I would just change the order. I think.
Yeah. And so check that out at theringer.com and the NBA columns to read the details. So the criteria what went on to for them to create that list. All right, Lakina, we got to gear up for our last break, and we got to finish strong for this extended long Memorial Day weekend. And we'll talk to our guy Ryan Field, the sports anchor and reporter from ABC 7, WABC TV in New York City. He's going to talk all things New York sports and more. And we got to do that hockey, Lakina. It involves the team that he covers, the New York Rangers, or if you watched game one, they were the New York Strangers. We'll get into that and a whole lot more as you listen to the extended version of Second City Sports for your Memorial Day holiday weekend. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. Stay right there. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports. We're live in 11 color on this Memorial Day weekend special edition on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Keita McGee on the Twitter, X, and Kids Gonna Get on IG.
This is our last break of the show for today and for the extended weekend. So make these questions or comments great. If you have any questions or comments, especially for our next guest that's coming up, that's Ryan Field from ABC 7 in New York City, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid. While we're waiting for him, he'll be a few minutes, but let's do that hockey.
Yay!
Yeah, of course. Last night in the Western Conference Finals, Edmonton beat the Stars 3-2 in an double overtime thriller. It was Mr. Connor McDavid, less than 30 seconds over 30 seconds, I should say, got the game winner there to cap off that double overtime thriller. And again, I was just sitting down to get ready to watch it. Of course, McDavid, hits the game winner. They get a 1-0 lead. And I think, for me, I think this is definitely going to be sort of similar to what we're going to see probably within like the other games. I mean, it was kind of like back and forth, it was sort of like a chess match. Just kind of like, Dallas made the first move, then the Oilers counter that move, and then everything else kind of like, sort of like, excuse me, it's sort of like, Bob Weed, Oilers took a 2-0 lead. Of course, Tyler Seguin scored the 2 goals to tie it. Of course, McDavid, won it for the Oilers. So this could definitely be similar to what will happen the rest of the series. But yeah, this is definitely kind of an appetizer here.
Congratulations to Edmonton going back to Monday, winning that series on the road in Game 7 at Vancouver in a hostile environment. Vancouver, I know it was tough, but if you're a Canucks fan, if you're a Canucks player, don't hang your hat. There's a bright future ahead for that franchise. So Rick Tocchet and the rest of his staff, great job. You lost. They'll be back. They'll be back. But back to last night's game. Look, you mentioned Dallas being battle tested. They trailed early, fought back, but in overtime, you could tell the fatigue was starting to set in. And Edmonton just called a little bit of fire. And as Stacey King would say from Bulls TV, big time players make big time plays at big time moments, and that's what happened with Connor McDavid. Remember, Lakina, I asked you about him. If the Oilers would have lost on Monday, what would do to his legacy? How many prime chances that we have left of winning the Stanley Cup? He stepped up big last night to have that game win on the road in Game 1.
Yeah, that was to their credit. I mean, they were able to, after blowing that 2-0 lead, with a Seguin, scoring those 2 goals. I think they were able to kind of regroup, especially after the first overtime, and then they kind of got it going just right off the bat. McDavid hit that game winner, so I guess he must have saw PK Subban's comments, I guess, that say that this might be a legacy series for him. So we'll see if he can keep it up. But yeah, I think this could go 5 or maybe 6 or 7. And yeah, I think this is just I think Dallas fans shouldn't be too discouraged after losing that opener last night.
Yeah, Jay Donninger, in my opinion, has been the second best goalie in these playoffs. The first one is Igor Shackleton from the New York Islanders. The New York Rangers, I should say. Well, I was writing about him coming up. But if you're the Dallas Stars, you shouldn't hang your head. You've been battle tested throughout the years. You've been battle tested this postseason with the Colorado series that you finished on the road, and with the Vegas series that you outlasted the Golden Knights in 7 games. So if you're a Dallas fan, you shouldn't be down. I expect a complete 60-minute effort from Dallas in Game 2.
Should be a fun series. Now, going back to, speaking of, like I said, we'll do the last round about this in a little bit when he comes on. But yeah, tonight you got the Panthers and the Rangers. The Panthers made the Rangers look ordinary in that first game on Wednesday, and it was just one of those things where I think that the Panthers kind of jumped in and said, hey, look, y'all have had a nice little I don't want to say easy first couple rounds, but look, this is the Panthers' first rodeo either. So it was basically all Panthers in that game, and it was just like, Matt Tkachuk, scored that opener, and it was kind of opened the floodgates. I mean, a Carter Verhey had the unassisted goal, of course, capped off Sam Bennett's empty netter to kind of. It was just like the Rangers just look. This is actually the worst I've seen the Rangers look like all postseason.
Yeah, let's give some props to Sergei Grabowski as well. The Panthers starting goaltender. He had a 23 save shutout performance as well. But here's the thing: the Panthers set that tone by out-hitting the Rangers 38-27. And the Rangers, number 2, the Rangers were 0 for 2 in their power play, and they turned over the puck. They had 12 giveaways and all. You're not going to win many playoff games in the NHL turning the puck over the way they did, and creating scoring chances for your opponent. That's not going to happen. And you got, even though it's rare in the playoffs, you got to take advantage with your power play. And the Rangers did not do that. The physicality tone was set on Wednesday in Game 1, and you gave away the puck. Those are two major things I took away from the Rangers and being shut out at home.
Yeah, the chemistry kind of they were out of it by the end of that, especially whenever Verhey hit that second goal. It was kind of over and done with. You kind of it's like
Mm-hmm.
she was pretty much dead after that. So it'll be interesting to see if the Rangers. I think the Rangers can come back. But I think this is going to go 6 or 7-2. I think. Look, the Rangers are too good. I know the Panthers are too good as well. So it could be a little bit of a slugfest here between these two teams. So should be very interesting to see actually what happens tonight. I think Ryan is at MSG or near MSG right now. I'm sure when he comes on, we'll ask him about that. But the Rangers are kind of one of those teams where you're kind of like it got hit. They haven't been hitting them out very much in the playoffs. They got hitting them out by the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if they can bounce back tonight.
Yeah, you saw that in the last series against your Carolina Hurricanes. Having that 3-0 series lead, trimming it down to 3-2 before they woke up and won that sixth game. I talked about Igor Shesterkin as being the best goalie in the league for the New York Rangers. Someone offensively besides Artemi Panarin is going to have to step up tonight, because I know scoring comes at a premium, especially around this time of year, but the Rangers got to get back to what they do. You set the tone, create multiple scoring chances, and how about your goaltender? Because life gets easier for your goaltender when you have 2 or 3 goals on the board, especially early. I'm just saying.
Right. I mean, well, I think the Rangers kind of have to sort of wake up a little bit, and get started, because I think, look, everyone has to step up. Panera's been doing his thing, but he needs help. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of goes here. But yeah, I mean, the Rangers, like I said, I think they will win tonight. After that, it's gonna go. They go down to South Florida. It's gonna be interesting. That place is gonna be rocking. So we'll see if they can kind of get it going. And who's going to have the edge? Again, if the Rangers end up tying the series, but we'll just see what happens here.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Chicago City. Lakina kicking it with you. We're waiting for our guest Ryan Field from ABC7 in New York City to hop on with us. While we still have a couple of minutes to spare here, Lakina, congratulations to the Chicago Sky. They picked up their second victory last night over the New York Liberty, 90-81. Angel Reese, she's the lady around town, the new kid on the block. She had a good game last night. I know their home opener is tomorrow night, I believe, against the Connecticut Sun. It's at 7 o'clock Chicago time at Winchester Arena. You can watch that game live on CBS Sports Network. The Sky are 2-1 on the year. As I told you before, Lakina, I'll keep saying it as long as they give good effort. Teresa Weatherspoon has those girls playing at a high level. I'm not saying they're going to the playoffs or anything like that, but as long as if you're giving consistent effort for 40 minutes or so, the Sky have a chance to maybe win some games they shouldn't win on the schedule.
Well, including that game against the Liberty. I think they were double-digit underdog in that game yesterday. So it was Angel Reese kind of willed their way, and it looks like Cardoso is going to be back for that game. So perfect timing for that. So like I said, I mean, look, they play after their coach, Teaspoon, of course. Like I said, she's won some titles and has a couple of gold medals to her repertoire, her Hall of Fame repertoire. She is a Hall of Famer. So I mean, look, I think there's a lot of buzz about it. I mean, like I said, as long as they're getting good effort, they're entertaining, people will tune in, people will watch here. But at the same time, though, I mean, you gotta win. So if they can kind of at least give teams fits, some of the top teams fits, we'll see what they do against the Sun tomorrow. But I'm kind of like right there with you that we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what happens. We'll see.
The WNBA's ratings, as you mentioned, has been up, I think, 218% from last year, and that's across the ESPN platforms. I know Caitlin Clark, her team, the Indiana Fever, off to, I believe, an 0-3 start. Of course, she's starting to get the criticism. I think some of it is unfair. Let's be honest here, Lakina, and I don't care what sport you're talking about. You're going from a college level to a professional level. It's going to take time. If anybody thought that she was going to drop 40 and 50 points on everybody to start off a WNBA career, you're crazy. Even she'll tell you that.
Well, yeah, like it's going to be definitely an adjustment period, because the style of play is totally different in the WNBA. It's a little bit slower. It's a little bit more kind of like defensive oriented. So it's going to be interesting to see if she can adjust quick. Like I said, they're 0-3, so that's going to be another issue for them. They're going to have to bounce back from that. So I'm sure they'll figure it out. I mean, the ratings they kind of evened out a little bit. So it's gonna be, like I said, we'll kind of keep up. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, it's gonna. I'm sure she'll figure it out. But yeah, I've seen all the kind of like the criticism, the critiques people making, chiming in at various this and that. I know. Look, I've said it before. You'd be crazy to think that at least, like I said, at least Angel Reese is getting her due. Agent Wilson's finally getting her due. So is Kelsey Plum. So it's gonna be interesting what kind of like can they build on that, and that's gonna be the thing.
And also, too, we talked about this on our last couple of shows that teams like the Washington Mystics and the Las Vegas Aces, they moved a couple of their games to bigger arenas to accommodate fans that are interested in the sport. I think that's very cool to see. And so we'll see if the WNBA can continue to pick up that momentum.
All right, and our guest is here, so you can catch him if you're in New York. You can catch him on ABC7. He is #1 reporter and anchor there. He is the one, the only, the fabulous Mr. Ryan Field. Ryan, how are you?
Sydney, Lakina, happy Friday. Great to be here.
Yeah, happy Friday to you. How's it going?
Everything's great, man. Everything's great. We're getting ready to head down to the Rangers game. Big game tonight at Madison Square Garden. So we'll see if the Blue Shirts can even up this series at a game apiece.
I know we only got a few minutes for you, so let's get right to it. Now let's talk about that Rangers series. What do you think the mood is with the players there after being shut out in that first game on Wednesday, I should say?
Yeah, I think two things to consider here. The Rangers feel like they definitely could have played better. They hit the post. They had a couple chances in front. Zibanejad missed a one-timer that he normally scores on. So there was definitely some missed opportunities. And two, don't let the score fool you. I mean, this was basically a 1-0 hockey game until late in the third period when there was an own goal and then an empty net. Yeah. So the Rangers were right there with the Panthers. The flip side to that is Florida also believes they can play better. So I wouldn't call it a must-win for the Rangers tonight, but certainly one that they need to have to head down to Florida tied at a game apiece.
The Rangers have a goalie named Igor Shesterton, and I believe he's the best goalie remaining in these playoffs next to Jay Ottinger of the Dallas Stars. Offensively for the Rangers, Ryan, I know, as we talked about before we brought you on, that scoring comes at a premium, especially at this time of year in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Outside of Artemi Panarin, who else needs to step up in the scoring department for the Rangers to get back control of this series?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at two guys, and it's Artemi Panarin. Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad are the two guys that you got to look at, especially Kreider, who had a huge Game 6 in the last series, a natural hat trick in the third period. Only Mark Messier and Wayne Gretzky, the only Rangers to ever do that in the playoffs, had a hat trick in a single period. So he's capable of delivering in big moments. And so, too, is Zibanejad. You know what Panarin's going to give you night in and night out, so those two guys have to step up tonight. And I fully expect the Rangers to bounce back and win this game.
I mean, do you kind of feel like, I know you weren't there, of course, 30 years ago, of course, you were probably like in grammar school still, but do you kind of feel the energy of this Rangers team kind of be like the Rangers team that won 30 years ago? I know Messa said this on ESPN, but kind of like sort of a similar kind of like the way the team's set up. So do you kind of have the parallel? Do you think this team has a parallel to that team 30 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, the parallels are eerie, if you will. I mean, you had a team that the way that things have unfolded here in the postseason with a first-round sweep and then a dramatic win in Game 6 that involved a hat trick, same way Wayne Gretzky had a hat trick in 1994. You look at, there was a solar eclipse, there was an earthquake, O.J. Simpson was in the news. So there's so many things that line up. And the Rangers, in fact, in 1994, lost Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final the same way they did 2 nights ago. So it's definitely, if you're into that kind of thing, the stars are definitely aligning for the Rangers to repeat history. But listen, 30 years is a long time to wait for this fan base. And they've been on the cusp several times, several trips to the conference finals since 2013. So this is a team that's, used to being in here on this type of stage, and now they frankly have to deliver, and no better time to do that than tonight.
You're making us all look old, Ryan, going back to 1994. You're taking us all back to our childhoods
man,
there.
Listen, I was not in grammar school. I was a junior in high school, so I just want to clear the air here, Lakina. I'm much older than you think I am, and I'll take that as a compliment, so it's all good.
Let's switch over to basketball and talk about the New York Knicks. Of course, they were eliminated by the Indiana Pacers last weekend. Of course, Jalen Brunson was the story of the playoffs next to Anthony Edwards of the Minnesota Timberwolves. But you guys have two important free agents in OJ and Obi. I think it's a player option. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And Isaiah Hartenstein, who was in my opinion one of the silent MVPs for the Knicks this season. What do you think will happen between those two players as the Knicks trying to structure this roster to become a championship
Well, listen,
contender?
I mean, if they're smart, they bring back both guys. I would probably put a premium, believe it or not, on Hartenstein because of what he brings as a big man. He was pivotal in these playoffs in terms of second chance points and rebounds and just kind of being the anchor of the team in the post. Anunoby, the big thing throughout his career has been his health. And we saw that again. He had a couple long stretches that he missed, including in the playoffs this season with the Knicks. Obviously, they're a different team with him on the floor. So in a perfect world, they bring both of those guys back, which I think they're going to try to do. I think they trade Julius Randle this offseason. He's on an expiring contract. I think that's kind of the trade chip that they use. Plus, they have a bevy of first-round picks at their disposal. So I think they try to swing for the fences and finding a co-star, if you will, for Jalen Brunson, and then re-sign Anunoby and Hartenstein as well.
Well, since you answered my question on with Mr. Randall, so we'll switch gears here to talk some baseball. The Yankees have actually been playing pretty well, even though with the injuries. Of course, Garrett Cole is out for a little while longer, but guys like Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, I mean, those guys have stepped up. Luis Gil, gave our White Sox a run for their money last weekend. He had another great start here. So, what do you think the ceiling is for the Yankees this season, especially the tough AL East with the Orioles?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. The fact that they're doing all this without Garrett Cole is frankly remarkable. The reigning Cy Young Award winner in the American League hasn't thrown a single pitch this season, and the Yankees have the best record in the American League. Looks like they're on pace for a collision in the World Series with either the Dodgers or the Phillies. But again, we've been down this road before with the Yankees where they look great in the regular season and can't get over the hump in the postseason. I think the X factor here, a guy you've also mentioned, is Juan Soto in the sense that he's kind of Aaron Judge insurance. And Aaron Judge got off to a really bad start the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. And Juan Soto basically carried the team from an offensive standpoint, had a couple of big plays in the field as well, throwing out guys at home plate. So he's that extra guy that can run side by side with Aaron Judge that the Yankees frankly haven't had before because Giancarlo Stanton is so inconsistent. It's either home run or nothing, it seems, from him. So now you're getting a guy in Juan Soto who's been as good as advertised and then some. Clearly one of the best players in the game, 25 years old, and he has instantly become a fan favorite here in the Bronx and certainly gives this Yankees team a different dimension as they look ahead towards the rest of the season.
We're hanging out with our buddy Ryan Field. He's a sports anchor reporter from ABC 7 in New York City. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sia Lakina here with you. All right, Ryan, we just had the NFL draft a couple of weeks ago. I won't talk about the Giants just yet, but I'm focusing on the New York Jets. I know they have, I believe, 6 primetime games this year. I think it's safe to say the honeymoon is over with Aaron Rodgers with the Jets fan base. I know there's pressure on GM Joe Douglas and head coach Robert Saleh to get to the playoffs this year. Looks like on paper things are in line because they're rebuilding New England. Buffalo's still a good team, but they're rebuilding because of salary cap issues. We know about the situation with the Miami Dolphins. But if everything should stay in place, how many wins do you think the Jets can get this year to get to the playoffs?
I mean, I don't know if the honeymoon is over. You could argue they never even left the airport last season to fly down for the honeymoon. Aaron Rodgers hurt 4 plays into the season, and they never even got off the tarmac to fly down to the tropics for the honeymoon to begin. So I think all signs coming out of Jets camp right now positive. Rodgers is healthy. I loved his press conference the other day. Knows all the pressures on him, knows the spotlight's on him. This is a guy who's been doing this for 20 plus years in the NFL, is used to that type of pressure. And obviously his health is paramount to the Jets' success. But you look at this roster, it's loaded, and they've doubled down and gone all in, knowing that their Super Bowl window is here for this season and perhaps next season as well, with Rodgers at the helm. And if he's healthy, there's no reason why this team can't win 11, 12, 13 games, given how good they are defensively. And, it's going to be a shock for you in Chicago, for NFL fans around the country, and frankly, for fans here in New York, because the Jets' offense has been, frankly, offensive the last several years. And if they can show any semblance of a good offense, which obviously they will with Aaron Rodgers there, I mean, this is going to be a dimension that we haven't seen around here in a long time. And I think that's what everybody's banking on. They've added more pieces to the offensive line. And listen, if he stays healthy, it's basically Super Bowl or bust for the Jets.
What about the Giants? Disappointing last year. Do you think they can kind of improve and get back up near the NFC East?
Yeah, you could argue they're still in this rebuilding phase, retooling phase. I mean, obviously Daniel Jones being hurt the majority of last year, or at least the second half, with an ACL, certainly put a damper on things. We had that brief Tommy DeVito mania that lasted about a week and a half. But, their offensive line is still a mess. They lost Saquon Barkley. Their running game probably might not be as dynamic as it was last season. Defensively, they got Burns from Carolina, a big defensive presence that they hope will provide some added pressure on the front line. But I think the ceiling for this team, I think the Vegas over and under is 6.5 wins. And I think if they make it to 7 or 8, that would be considered a success for this team this season.
Last question from me, Ryan. I know you're running short on time. I'll ask you about the New York Mets. They had a chance to get towards 500 a couple of weeks ago. Now I believe they're 7 to 8 games under. They didn't look good in their series earlier this week against Cleveland. I want to ask you about Pete Alonso. He's one of the big boppers for the team, and he's going to become a free agent at the end of the year. Do you think that the Mets will have enough money to re-sign him, and do you think they'll reload again to be competitive in the NL East for next year?
Well, listen, there's two schools of thought on this. They offered him I think it was a 6-year contract for like 155 million, 156, might have been a 5-year deal. First basemen, frankly, aren't as valuable as they used to be. And he has certainly not performed at the level that they need him to justify giving him this contract. Now, the flip side is he's also one of their few homegrown talents that's on the roster, came up through the system, fan favorite. Do you have the guts, if you will, to pull the trigger and trade him and try to get some young pieces back as they continue to restock their farm system, which they did at the deadline last season when they moved the likes of Verlander and Scherzer and all those guys, Mark Canha. So we'll see which direction they choose. I'm of the belief that maybe they try to trade him and use that money elsewhere this offseason and get a few key pieces back for him. They might take a PR hit in the short term, but I think for the long-term gain of the franchise, I think that might be the better play.
All right, Ryan, this was short but sweet, but I thank you so much for joining us today. Where people can find you on social media, on ABC7 New York, and your podcasts.
Yeah, listen, Ryan Field ABC on Twitter and Instagram, posting a lot on Facebook. And yes, I do host the official ABC Bachelor podcast called Playing the Field, talking all things Bachelor Nation. A nice pivot from my sports world, but, when we're not talking about games on the field, we're talking about the game of love, which is something that everybody is very, very familiar with. So give that a listen, Playing the Field, the ABC Bachelor podcast. And thank you both for having me on, and I hope you both have a wonderful holiday weekend.
You too. Stay safe. We're doing this again. You're the best, Ryan. So thank you.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Yes. All right. That was Ryan Field, the ABC7 sports anchor reporter out of New York City. So we like having him on the program. Hopefully we can do it again with him soon. We'll have a little bit more time. As Lakina mentioned, he's on his way to MSG to cover tonight's game 2 of the NHL's Eastern Conference Finals in the Stanley Cup between the New York Rangers and the Florida Panthers.
And speaking of the rest of the Stanley Cup playoff schedule, Florida, the Panthers and the Rangers, it'll be at 7 o'clock on ESPN tonight.
Yes, and tomorrow we'll have game 2 of the Edmonton-Dallas Western Conference Finals. Your home for the Western Conference Finals, television-wise here in the United States, will be on TNT, and that's at 7:30.
On ABC and streaming on ESPN Plus, you'll have game 3 of the Rangers and Panthers. We'll see where their series will be at that point.
Mm-hmm. And then game 3 of the Dallas series with Edmonton will transition over to Canada and they'll be on Monday night on TNT. So we'll have hockey and basketball almost simultaneously on Monday night.
Going to be a lot of flipping. And
And
also,
that's
I'm
your
sure.
schedule for the Stanley Cup playoffs for this weekend.
Well, don't forget Tuesday. It'll be Game 4, the Rangers Panthers series, of course, also on ESPN
that's
at
right.
7.
Now that's your schedule for the Stanley Cup playoffs this coming weekend. This Memorial Day holiday weekend.
All right, this is Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. Katie McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Real quick, since we got a little bit of time, it looks like, I guess, TNT is going to be out of the NBA new TV deal. It looks like, I guess, various reports say it's all but official now. They're putting like the finishing touches, air quotes,
Yeah.
if you will. Charles Barkley on the Impact show yesterday was not very happy with the brass over at Warner Bros. Discovery. I've said this when David Zaslav famously said a couple of years ago that the TNT Turtles need the NBA. Well, you know what? That I really believe, and I think I told you this, said I really believe those comments came back to bite him in the butt. So, and if it is official and that there is no more NBA on TNT, I would be surprised you're a shareholder for Warner Bros. Discovery. You're probably like, get out, Mr. Zaslav, get out.
Yeah, as you said for the last few weeks, go F around and find out, and this is what happened. But hearing comments from Charles over the last couple of weeks, because they know before the rest of the public does that on certain moves in that nature. But it's great to see NBC back with the coverage again. Of course, this is going to start in the 25-26 campaign, so you still have another year with the NBA on TNT. I don't know if you caught the John Tesh interview. He was on Dan Lebertard earlier this week. Of course, he's a former anchor at Entertainment Tonight. Of course, he's been a musician and producer for many years. He says that he has a orchestra on standby. He's recording stuff in Nashville, and they're going to do a rendition of Round Ball Rock for this for the upcoming Olympics that's later on this summer. So, if that's anything of a preview for the NBA on NBC for the 25-26 season, I'm all for it.
Yeah, because I think he and Kaya Celica, the lovely actress, they've been married for many years. They live down there, so I believe when he says that he has an orchestra already on standby. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be like, well, we'll have plenty of time to talk about it because they still got a year left in the current TV contract. But you think about this, I mean, Mike Tirico, who of course did it for the NBA for many years on ABC, ESPN. You got he'll probably be the #1 guy. We had tried to get him on, but yeah, he's Noah Eagle. Of course, he's a busy bee. Of course, I interviewed him a couple of years ago at the height of the pandemic, and he's now going to be the TV voice for the French Open, which starts on Sunday. His star is starting to rise.
You think he'll be the TV voice? You think for the Olympics? I think hopefully
he
for
might.
the
Yeah,
men's
I
basketball.
think so. I think so. I think I saw somewhere where he is going. I have to double check, but I think so. I think he is going to be one of the voices for basketball. I think. I think I saw it somewhere, but yeah. Well, I think he is going to be in the Olympics. I don't know what sport he's going to. I think it is going to be basketball, but his star is starting to rise, and so I know Kevin Harlan did an interview, and he said he wants to still do NBA basketball. Like, consider that he still does the NBA, the NFL, and college basketball for CBS. They may not let him do it for NBC. Now, Amazon is a different story. So I wonder, will you see guys like Kevin Harlan, maybe Iron Eagle, Noah's dad, if he decides he wants to do it, or by Spiro Diaz, if he wants to go back to still do NBA. So you gotta think those guys are probably gonna be on Amazon and not on NBC. So what do you think? Like I said, we got plenty of time to talk about this because like I said, the TV deal is we still got one more year in the current TV deal. But what do you think?
It'll be a shame if CBS trying to block Kevin Harlan to do NBC. I know they're competing networks, but he'll have options if he doesn't. If they don't let him do the NBC games, if he wants to, like you said, Amazon will probably let him do it. So, like I said, he's the #1 guy over there at TNT. I know Brian Anderson during the summer is the TV voice for the Milwaukee Brewers baseball team, but he's been getting a whole lot of shine over these last few years. So. Like I said, he's going to have a lot of options. And speaking of Brian Anderson, do you think he's going to be brought over if NBC decides to hire him? If not, he'll have Amazon.
Yeah, like same thing here. Like I said, I think he's okay. Like I said, I think he's better with baseball than he is with basketball. Not to say that he's bad at basketball, but I think it depends on who he's paired with. But yeah, I think, like I said, really all just going to depends on how all this sort of kind of shakes out. Because remember, with the inside the NBA guys, those guys it'll be interesting to see if those guys are going to be doing the college hoops coverage for March Madness. They still got about 5 years left in that deal, so it's going to be a lot of moving pieces here coming up after next season. Again, it says if it does become official that Turner is going to be left out of the NBA coverage again.
Real quickly, Keen, I know we're starting to run up against it, but did you hear also too that Charles Barkley? I didn't know this. That he has a production company. He says he wants to keep inside the NBA after it ends next season. Of course, Ernie Johnson has expressed that he wants to stay with Turner, and rightfully so. He's been doing it for that company over the last 35 years. As of next year, he wants to keep that whole crew together, kind of do like a YouTube almost podcast for him. If that's the case, I think he has something here because it's the number one pre-game and post-game show in the NBA and perhaps in all the sports. And so if he can keep it together via his production company, I'm all for it.
It'd be more free flowing too if they do it on YouTube,
Yes.
especially.
Yes.
So they could swear more on there. So I know some people say, "Well, hey, put it on ESPN, put it on NBC." Even if they put on Disney Plus and Peacock or Hulu and Peacock, they're not going to let them swear. It's going to be kind of like a shell of what it is now. So I would say go to. I think he just formed a couple of years ago. So I think it is sort of fairly new, but this would be a great get for him. So I think that would be interesting if they can do that. That would be interesting. That'd be pretty cool. Like I said, Shaq's gonna be swearing up a storm. You know that.
Oh yeah, Shaq Fu and then some.
Well, it won't be. It's not all bad news for Warner Bros. Discovery, though. They do have an agreement with ESPN to license and air a couple of the college football playoff games. Now it will air on it will stream on Max. It'll be on Warner Bros. Discovery. I'm assuming on TNT, but it'll be produced on ESPN. So I guess it'll soften the blow if it is official that they are going to be out of the NBA television picture, But yeah, I mean, no shade to like I said, college football, baseball, and hockey, of course. But the NBA is gonna. They've been with the NBA for about 40 years about TNT. So and plus, you don't know how the NBC is gonna produce it. Will they show a lot of the middle market? Will it show like Indiana and Minnesota, those kind of mid market teams? So I know people like it for the nostalgia purposes of it being back on NBC. But it's just like, is it going to be kind of like ESPN, where it's kind of like LeBron and Steph and KD heavy, or are they going to show a little bit more variety? That's the only thing that some people are kind of a little bit fun on.
Yeah, it's almost I know, like I said, we'll have a little bit more time in future shows to really do a deeper dive into this, but it's almost parallel to when NBC debuted this NBA coverage back in 1990. It was the end of the Bird Magic era. Michael was taking flight, of course. Him and his Bulls started to win titles. I see the same parallel in the sense with the LeBron, Steph, and Kevin Durant, their careers coming to an end. You're starting to see the rise of Luka Doncic and Anthony Edwards and Tyrese Halliburton. You want to throw his name in there, and Jalen Brunson too. So I think NBC is picking up in a perfect time to see new and rising stars in the NBA.
What about Turner getting a couple of the college playoff games? What do you think about that?
Good for them. They, like you said, they got to make up losing the NBA somehow. And I'm interested to see how they're going to produce this and who's going to be the announcers, because this is going to be, as you know, the first year of the extended college football playoff. I want to see what time they're going to have these games on and how they're going to produce it, or in the end, or if they're going to have an alternate broadcast like ESPN does.
I'm interested to see, like I said, I mean, it's going to be produced by ESPN, so you got to think that they're going to have a little bit of a say on who does the game. So, but yeah, it'll soften the blow a little bit, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Warner Bros. Discovery does once it's all official. Will David Zaslav be out of a job? So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Anything else before we disperse?
I am hungry. I'll be out at the Sox game on Saturday getting my free Luis Robert Jr. bobblehead. I know it's supposed to rain on Sunday, but I'm ready to eat and get an extended rest for a 3-day weekend. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to go.
Yeah, so am I. I'm a little bit thirsty. I'm a little bit hungry. So yeah, let's end on a high note. You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X and Q's on the IG.
You can follow yours Shirley Sydney Brown on the Twitter, X and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Excuse me. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
That's right. Hit that like button on the way out if you didn't hit it on the way in. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday, except for this Monday for Memorial Day. Every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, exclusively on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, during the weekend, of course, we won't be on Monday, but you can still catch our show and other shows. Of course, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Balls, or What's Up Cuz on Roku TV. If you got the Roku TV app or whatever device you have, just type in Sports Zone Chicago. Catch, of course, like I said, catch replays of our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, What's Up Cuz. Spend the Memorial Day weekend, when you're kind of on the break, from spending time with family and in remembrance of some of the soldiers. You can catch Second City Sports anytime, anywhere on Roku TV.
And we will provide.
Of course, we want to thank our good friend Ryan Field from ABC7 New York for joining us. Of course, you can catch, if you got ABC7 app in New York on the app. So if you're outside the market, you can it's all right there. You can catch his great reporting and anchoring. Of course, you can catch Playing the Field podcast where you get your podcasts.
Yes, we'd like to thank him for hopping on with us, and we'll get him back on again once we have more time with him. All right, Lakina, I'm getting ready to enjoy this weekend. So go some sun, protect myself on the rain for this upcoming Sunday. For those of you living in the Chicagoland area, it's supposed to rain on Sunday, but everybody be careful. Have a great and safe holiday weekend. Remember what this weekend is truly for. Be outside of the barbecuing and all that. So we like to pay tribute to our former, current soldiers that are serving our country right now in the United States of America.
I think it's Soldier 2 for survey too. If you see what
Yes.
I saw one a couple of weeks ago over at the Myers near me, and he smiled. So I make a soldier happy today. Give him a smile.
Yes.
And say thank you for your service every day.
Yes.
All right. So for Sid, I'm Lakina. Be careful out there this holiday weekend. Be safe out there, folks. Don't act stupid. This has been Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago, and we'll see you next week.
God bless America, my home, sweet home. Holla!